As of right now, what I'm seeing suggests that the bottom may have been reached. Several well-known and trusted experts are predicting a huge price increase across the stock and cryptocurrency markets. This will definitely apply to XRP. That's why I'm making this video for all of you back home. Crazy things are happening in the markets right now. In case you didn't know, gold is the most forward-looking and reactive asset. It tells us where the prices of everything else will fall in the future, in general. This is because gold and silver are the best ways to store value right now, so big moves in gold's price tell us a pretty interesting story. And I'm not just making this up, I'm going to show you some real-life examples of this happening. At first, though, I just want to talk about what could potentially be happening here in terms of short-term price fluctuations. Just because we're very close to the bottom currently does not mean that we're not going to fluctuate in price, and we're most definitely not going to be just shooting straight up to the moon, so please get that idea out of your head. It never works like that in investment markets. It barely ever goes exactly how we're anticipating, but what we do know is gold is making some pretty compelling moves, and so generally speaking, the markets do react in a very predictable way just for that particular thing. But let's talk about this. The S&P 500 is now up 34% in 6 months, which is a move only seen 10 previous times since 1930, which is when we really started tracking the stock markets. And in 8 of the 10 previous occurrences, the S&P 500 ended lower 2 weeks later, with an average decline of about 3.5%. So just because we're really close or potentially at the bottom right now, does not mean that we can't go just a little bit lower than where we are right now. 3.5% down for the S&P 500 would see certain stocks lose a ton of value. But on the flip side, once we hit that bottom, things get pretty crazy very shortly thereafter. And if you look at this chart right here, you can see a number of different times where the 6-month change has actually been quite a bit more explosive than even what we're seeing right now, going back to 2017, going back to 2008. There's many different examples on record of when this happened. This is where we are right now with 34% gains. And so yes, I do think that we have a lot more room to go up. And there is a decent chance that we do actually hit some new highs like we've seen previously in some of these other cycles. And so that's what I really want to focus on. But just keep in mind, a pullback is indeed possible. It has happened 80% of the time, 3.5%. Yeah, that's a decent sized pullback for the stock market. The crypto market could see something a little bit similar. We can also see that the RSI for gold is at its most overbought level ever, and gold is up almost 50% this year alone, which is almost 4 times the S&P 500's year-to-date return. This run in precious metals is not a coincidence. Markets are forward-looking and have been set up accordingly as assets skyrocket. Basically, what we're seeing here is gold pushing higher, and I really wanted to ask Grok and other AI platforms just how accurate gold is as a forward-looking indicator. I did that because, let's face it, people say this all the time, but how can we really believe it until we have proof? So Grok says that gold is a boss. Investors' attitudes toward protecting value often change when gold hits an all-time high. These investors may then move their money into riskier assets when liquidity improves or speculation grows. Bitcoin and stocks often catch up after a wait during bull markets, but during bear markets, gold's strength shows how weak stocks and crypto are. This information comes from a number of different places. Cross-correlations, rolling correlations, and psychological studies are used in the analysis. A few examples are the stagflation of the 1970s, the bull run of 2011, and the rise from 2020 to 2025. The legs are close to the medians. When it will happen rests on big picture things like policy and interest rates. Of course, the fact that the Fed is dropping rates is a big reason why gold is becoming a better investment, because we know the dollar will keep falling in value. That's pretty easy, but we all know that crypto has a similar effect. So this is the normal leg. I think this will change a lot of things for your guys when you really think about it. For Bitcoin, the short term is 8 to 12 weeks, the long term is 10 to 12 months, and the trade days are up to 200. A rolling 30-day correlation of 0.3 to 0.67 is usually a moderately good number. In some studies, this number peaks at 95 weeks. Bitcoin is thought of as digital gold, but it is more unpredictable and hasn't done as well as gold so far this year. Bitcoin has 33%, while gold has 44%. When it comes to stocks, we can see that it takes about 6 to 18 months for quick negative correlation and stress to reach their peak. When inflation is high, the average link is about 0.43. When markets are rising, it's close to 0 to positive. In 23 of the 53 years compared to the S&P 500, gold did better, especially when stocks were down. 70s, gold gained 1,600% compared to 225% for the S&P. So gold, I mean, what we're learning here is actually doing much better than the S&P 500 and sometimes even doing better than Bitcoin. What a cool piece of information that is. There is no doubt that crypto, especially altcoins like XRP, can move much more quickly than gold. That's been seen. In 3 months, XRP could go up 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, or even 8 times. Gold has never done that before. I mean, it's just not possible because the product is so big. If it tripled, the market value would reach $100 trillion, right? That's why it's not possible. So there is a lag. About 8 to 12 weeks is what we're planning for the short run. That is, if gold is at an all-time high right now, it's likely that XRP will also hit an all-time high within the next 3 months. This, ironically, perfectly lines up with the Fed monetary cycles that I've been telling you about for months. This is the 3-month delay, guys. We can see this with gold, of course. This can be seen in how the Fed makes choices. Gold is just stronger. It was the first to do it. So when we see that gold has reached an all-time high of $4,000 an ounce, it's pretty clear that the markets are going in this way. This is more proof that things will get better in the next 3 months, 8 to 12 weeks. It might happen in the next 2 months. Now is a good time to talk about November. Now is a good time to talk about December. January could be the subject. But no matter how we look at it, the crypto market is likely to have a huge crash either at the end of this year or very early in 2026. So it makes sense that when we hit these lows, by the way, my Crypto Crusader indicator has been screaming at you guys to buy, we would. A buy right now and a buy again right now at what price was this? We can see that it went down to 286 or 287 somewhere. Yes, this is where we're getting down to level. I can hear my sign telling you to buy. Of course, now is the time to start thinking about this. In any case, I'm going to buy my futures holdings. I'm getting ready. I'm loading up again on these 2 signs, and I'm about to load up even more. It's almost certain that we'll soon have a sell signal, just like many of the previous buy signals back here when I was loading up here, and selling here, loading up here and selling here, or selling here and then loading up here, here. And I believe we will move up in the very near future. There will be some ups and downs, but I think we'll be ready to hit all-time highs in the next 2 to 3 months, as I just said. Guys, there's a lot to look forward to here.